All right, guys, now we'll get down to kind of dressing some of this bad parts off and clean it up a little bit. All right, first what we'll do is these front shoulders are just connected by tendon. There's no bone keeping them connected, guys. They just, see how they slice off?
Okay.
Now, see right here, this is where the bullets hit. None of this meat's gonna be any count, okay? Y'all have that, just, you're gonna have to discard of all that mess right there.
Okay.
And what's bad is, he hit this deer high, and it's got into the back strips. That's your best part of the meat that we talk about on the deer. See how that front shoulder cuts off? Mm-hmm. We're gonna clean this up in a few minutes, see if we can save any meat on it. But
okay.
It don't look good right now.
So we'll just lay it aside and come back to it.
We're gonna lay it right there on our cutting board. All right, let's go to this other shoulder.
Now this one looks a little better.
See how much nicer that shoulder
looks.
looks. We can probably get a lot of good meat out of that. We're just cutting around that front shoulder bone there. Cutting all that loose. See how simple that is? There's nothing to it. Now, see all this tendon and stuff and fat, all that stuff's not good. It makes your meat taste bad, so you gotta get that out. That's why a lot of people don't like to process the front shoulders, because there's so much that in between. It's tougher meat.
Right.
But we're gonna try to clean some of that out and we can get some meat to grind up for putting in chili and stuff like that.
Okay.
We'll get back to that in a few minutes.
All right. Now, folks, one of the best pieces of meat in a deer is the back strap, and Jim's gonna show us how to cut that out.
Okay, guys, first thing we'll do is kind of clean up some of this outside skin off of it. That's not very good to eat, and it's actually makes the meat taste tough and gives it that wild taste you have in it. Getting that white outside skin off of it. And there's a little bit of skin on this back strip when we get it out, but when we get it on the trimming block and all that, we'll get the rest of that off. We won't peel the solid meat. That makes it taste 100% better. Let me get this thing prepped up so we can start cutting and getting it out of there. All right, see, I'm gonna put my knife right in there.
Okay.
I'm staying right up against the backbone, coming all the way down. I'm gonna come on up a little bit more, and then I'm gonna come across like that right there. What we're doing here, we're just kind of boning that back strip out of there.
Travel down the backbone and it cuts right out of there.
There's a curved bone like that. If you ever seen a ribeye steak and that rib curves around, that's the back of the rib.
Okay.
When the butcher cuts them at a restaurant for ribeyes with a bone in, they just cut them like chops, or pork chops, same thing. That's what that is. That's the center of the pork chop, or the, what they call the eye of the round, or whatever. I mean, eye of the pork chop, or the eye of the T-bone steak. The T-bones are in there, the ribeyes, and all that's in there. That's the most, the most tender and best part of the deer right there. We got a little problem with it right here, but we'll clean that up as we go.
And if
See
they
how
don't,
that just pulled out of there?
Yep.
That's a good strip, clean back strip right there. And I'll show you how to process it and cut it up or put it away for steaks, whatever. We'll get to that in a minute.
Well, we got the back straps out, and you are going to try these ribs.
A lot of people don't like the ribs and think they're too tough and don't like food with them and stuff. But I'm gonna cut them out because I like to throw them on my grill and grill them up and try nibbling on them. It's sort of like eating jerky in between the bone, but
yeah,
if you use the right season, they're pretty good. And I've got a nephew, man, he asks me every time he comes, you got any deer ribs? So I'm gonna save them if I just save them for him to cook them.
Yeah, okay.
But everybody needs to try them, and later on we might come up with a recipe that everybody can share that might be good for ribs.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do first is get some of the junk off of them.
Okay. Peel all that back?
Yeah, any of this meat, it's got all this second skin in it, and it's not fit to eat because it's tough and it has a bad taste. It has a wild taste to it. It's hard to do anything with it. If you take this to a processor, he's probably going to throw all this in the bone-in barrel to start with. Get some of this. All right, I'm gonna get a spot where I want to cut it at. now I'm gonna cut this breastbone. And I'm just now looking in here. I ain't gonna have a lot of rib left because that bullet hit up in this top of this one also.
Okay.
But right now, let's go ahead and cut this side a little bit. I'm gonna save a little bit of this rib because I want to experiment with a new recipe I got. But that's about as far as the rib I'm gonna get. See where the bone had hit. We don't want to get no lead fragments or whatever.
Right.
So I ain't gonna get much ribs out of this one to start with, but I'm gonna get me a little bit. We're getting us a little bit of stuff going on here.
Now, you're moving pretty fast to this deer. You're making it look pretty easy. About how
Well,
long does it take to process one if you're
It
got a lot of practice? And
no more than an hour and a half, something
Okay.
like that. Usually, get it skinned out and processed, and put it in the packages and get it ready to go in the freezer. It may take some people a little longer if they want to try to trim out more trimmings and stuff that I think sometimes ain't much count. Now, I'm gonna have to really clean this piece up right here if I'm gonna keep it.
Right.
So I'll get back to that in a few minutes. I'm trying to save as much deer off this I can eat without wasting any of it. Now, we got these two little items right here. It's called the tenderloins.
okay.
That's very good meat right there. Some people try to talk other people and letting them get them. They say, let me get rid of them poison glands, and they think there's something wrong with them. And they'll take off with them. So, but what we want to do is, let people know they're really good right there.
Right.
Now, a lot of people, when they're processing, you was talking about earlier about gutting the deer and all that, and they get that knife and they start cutting away, they'll get into these and damage them because they're trying to dig around here. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you do that. You start damaging your tenderloins. And a beef tenderloin on a cow is very expensive. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is get them cleaned up enough so we can work them out of there without messing them up. All right, I'm gonna start trying to carve them out of there, get as much of it as I can. It's a good lean strip of meat. Well, this deer is pretty small, so we're not gonna have a pretty big tenderloin, but they're very, very good.
Yeah. So can you batter those up and fry them?
Oh yeah, cut them up in chunks and fry them, man. You talking about good now.
Eggs and a few biscuits
Yes, sir.
and gravy?
Oh yeah. You're making me hungry, Jason.
All right, folks, we're almost done. Jim, looks like we got one last step here. Not much meat left.
No, sir. We're about to end the road on this, cutting it up and getting it ready for the blade on the table. What we want to do now is we want to separate these hams, go in there and bone around the joint, and separate them from all this bone here.
Okay.
And it'll look just like a country ham hanging in the store once we cut them off, and then we'll clean them up and get them boned and ready to make steaks, whatever we want to do with them.
Okay.
What we want to do first is there's a little bone sticking out right there. We'll kind of cut around it and kind of work on down the knife, stay against the backbone, and keep it all the way to the end there. We'll do the same thing on this side. And if we happen to leave a little meat on there, we'll trim it off for back for chili, whatever. Get down in there as far as we can on this side, and then we'll turn around to this side. But we'll get in here and find this bone. Start it there. That bone's gonna guide you where you need to be.
Okay.
There's a joint right there. We'll get that in a minute. Now, can you see that joint right there? Let me separate out a little more. Okay, now we're loose from the joint. We'll kind of keep our meat together. Now see how we got like a little country ham hanging there?
Yep.
Okay.
Looks good.
We'll turn around and do this side the same way. All right, bring it around this way a minute, Jason. All right, there we go, guys.
There we go.
What we'll do here now, we'll take and cut as a place to use our saw. Take a knife and kind of finish that off. That's that tendon I was talking about we didn't want to cut. All right, let's leave that laying right there. We'll bring the other one over and do the same thing.
All right, folks, we've processed the deer. We've cut the hide off, cut the meat out, and Jim's gonna walk us through one last time and tell us what parts of the deer we have here to cut and wrap for the freezer.
All right, guys. Remember we first started with our front shoulders. Got them over here to be cleaned up and boned out for our grinding meat and stuff. And we got our back strips. We'll show you in a few minutes how to put them away, which way to cut them up for packing. Our two little tenderloins, our real good meat tenderloins. These are ribs. We're gonna clean them up. Somebody that likes ribs, we'll cook them. Right here, we're just gonna get a little more trimmings off this for our stewing meat. And then we got our two back hindquarters, which we can make some steaks out of them. In a few minutes, I'll show you how to do that. We'll get them ready for that, or we can cut them up in pieces for roast.
Okay.
We're pretty much set.